All right, now let's talk about Israel first. Israel is weighing on a response to the attacks by Iran. We're going to be talking about that and how horny the right is for war and how restrained, I guess, the State Department has been, kind of. There is some confusion in the commentary. It is actually the first time I have seen a consistent contextualization of why a foreign adversary attacked an ally. I have never seen that in the news ever in my entire life. I have never seen that in the news ever. The fact that they are still saying that Iran is retaliating as a consequence of the embassy attack is kind of wild. It has almost become a party split. People that want to nuke Iran are predominantly on the Republican Party, not realizing the consequences of such an action. And then there are still calls for restraint from the Democratic Party. It is wild. It is actually shocking. I am confused as to how we got here. The Democrats normally absolutely love the notion of more American war. I think part of it is because of how far Israel has gone. The more restrained voices that are interested in dialing Israel's actions back purely from a pragmatic State Department attitude, not because they care about the lives and not because they're worried about the human toll if there is a broader conflict, but simply pragmatically approaching the situation with a pragmatic interest in self-preservation, are being more restrained in their conversations in the way that they're talking about Israel. Now, is that real? Like the Democratic Party and Joe Biden saying, if Israel tries to retaliate against Iran, we will not participate in an offensive campaign. Now, is that real? If Israel retaliates to Iran and actually hits Iran on Iranian soil, what Iran will do as a retaliation back with a great escalation in that front? Will America defend Israel? Yes, I do believe that. Will America be drawn into war if they do not hold Israel back? That's what I think. And yet, people are still championing this notion that we have to blow up Iranian soil, Iranian positions. Shapiro claims USA allowed Iran to retaliate to save face. He's right. I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't think Ben Shapiro is wrong. He is 100% correct on that. Actions have consequences. That's why it all came from Iran. I think that Israel's embassy attack was genuinely unacceptable and unprovoked. Israel thought that they could get away with murking some IRGC officials on Iranian soil, thinking that potentially they could also get America on board. Israel has shot at and assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists and things of that nature time and time again. But that's a little bit different because when Israel does that on the off season, nobody's paying attention to Israel. But when all eyes are on Israel because it's the playoffs, you can't really do that. When Israel did that without getting prior confirmation from the American state, when they hit the Iranian soil without telling America and only giving them like a 5-minute warning or something, that was a genuinely up move that escalated the conflict because Israel is belligerent. Israel is not only a genocidal apartheid state, but it's also belligerent in the way that it is swinging wildly at any and every regional actor, trying to open up new fronts in the war with a desperate interest in preserving not just like Israel as a legacy, Israel as a country or anything, but simply Benjamin Netanyahu's political career so he doesn't go to jail. That was a big up from Israel. So something had to happen. Under international law, Iran did have a right to retaliate. Iranian sovereignty was violated. This is a major breach of international law for weeks, because this happened 2 weeks ago. Iran, in the first week, expected the UN Security Council to condemn Israel for its embassy attack and violating Iranian sovereignty and punish the perpetrators of the actions. Of course, the UN Security Council didn't do that. America only seemingly was upset that Israel had not told them before doing this attack and not necessarily condemn the attack in and of itself, even though it did violate international law. It did violate Iranian sovereignty. You can't do that, and potentially open up a new front in the war. Some kind of retaliation had to happen. It had to take place. You can't have all those weapons and defense systems if you're not going to use them, especially if Israel only responds to force. Israel only responds to actual appropriate use of force. So Iran signaled that they would do a counterattack. This is very important to comprehend. Why is it very important to comprehend? Because a retaliation from Iran would be a win-win for all parties involved, especially if it was a relatively restrained retaliation. Going after military sites and not like urban areas directly. Now, you might have seen, if you live in Israel, you probably saw rockets fly over your head, but those rockets were still aimed at not dense urban areas, but instead desert military outposts. This is not my assessment of the situation. I am simply reporting to you what I have seen from mainstream media. If you listen to NPR, if you listen to the New York Times Daily, they do a phenomenal job with this, which was shocking because normally you don't expect the New York Times Daily to do a phenomenal job on foreign policy, especially on foreign policy where we have a big bad foreign adversary in Iran fighting against a big good foreign ally like Israel, right? So it is genuinely shocking to see the New York Times Daily and to hear Mike Barbaro's beautiful voice over those airwaves talking about how, like, yeah, I mean, this was a retaliatory attack and it was restrained. So Iran waited for 2 weeks, demanded some kind of answers from the international community that never came. Iran said, okay, well, we're going to retaliate to Israel, as is within our right to do so. Now, of course, doing that under normal circumstances, it would require no communication whatsoever because Iran did not want to max out on the damage, but instead simply make a theatrical somewhat or a political posture against the state of Israel for violating its sovereignty. They chose to communicate by way of mediators like Turkey, a NATO nation, and warn 72 hours ahead of time that they were going to be hitting certain military targets. Like, if you're confused by this process about what happened over this weekend, that is what happened. It's interesting because it's like, oh, if Iran is like simply interested in like maxing out the damage and killing everyone in Israel, all the KKK colonizers in Israel proper, well, then why are they actually informing 72 hours ahead of time that like in the next 72 hours, we are going to be launching missiles? If they're interested in maxing out damage, why are they not sending more ballistics and more cruise missiles that are harder to intercept than the hundreds of drones that they sent in that was relatively cheap? Why didn't they use their missile systems that actually can break the sound barrier? They don't have that tech? What do you mean they don't have that tech? The way that this works under international law in foreign politics, if you inform ahead of time that you're going to bomb a certain location, and America does this with Russia as well, for the record, because big countries, especially sometimes nuclear countries, not saying that Iran has nukes, I don't know that, will oftentimes inform ahead of time their adversaries on exactly when their retaliation is going to happen and exactly how that retaliation is going to happen. That communication not existing is what I guess like makes an act of terror versus like a state act. Yes, Nick King is correct. It is called deconfliction. Well, deconfliction is another thing. Deconfliction happens in times of war when you are mapping out your air force. Israel does it as well, yes. Obviously, Israel doesn't do it for Gaza because Gaza is an occupied area. Iran gave the U.S. and others in the region 72 hours notice in the attack, allowing them largely to thwart it. It could have been much worse if they didn't fire in waves and if they timed the missiles with the drones. They could have done a full surprise attack with hypersonics. They didn't showcase any of their newer weapons capabilities. They used weapons that Israel was very knowledgeable on, and that's why they were very successful in thwarting those attacks. Both because of the Era 2 system, the Era 3 system, and also obviously the Iron Dome, which is Tamir interceptors, as you guys know. And on top of that, you had Central Command, allied coalition forces flying over Syrian airspace, flying over airspace in Jordan, also intercepting some of those cruise missiles. And they did a remarkable job at it. As much as Israel sucks so hard, the Iron Dome is kind of sick. Yeah, it is dope. It is a technological marvel. It is phenomenal. I mean, I'm not going to here and lie. Israel's defenses are insane. Okay. It is crazy. It is insane. It sucks that like, it is a fundamental plank in defending an apartheid regime. It's really not. Yes, it is, dude. Are you kidding me? Come on. Did the US build it or Israel alone? No, of course the US built it. What do you mean? It's our tech. It is not impenetrable, but it doesn't matter. It's still phenomenal work. Come on, guys. Be for real. Be for real. Look at a country that doesn't have the Iron Dome, Ukraine, okay? Which is pretty crazy, by the way. Never has a man been as cucked as Volodymyr Zelensky. Never has a man been as cucked as this mother who literally was like, yeah, Russia is behaving like Iran against Israel. We're just like Israel. And it's like, you're such a idiot, dude. Benjamin Netanyahu literally blocked the Iron Dome. He said it was a non-starter. Benjamin Netanyahu said sending the Iron Dome to Ukraine would be a non-starter. You know who would have needed an Iron Dome more than Israel? Mother Ukraine, dog. He did that because he's in the pocket of Vladipu, because he's homies with Vladimir Putin. Remember that. Remember that. The most cucked man on the planet, dude. Iron Dome has a very limited range, 50 miles, and is made for tiny rockets and artillery shells. What do you think Russia uses? What are you talking about? Well, first of all, Russia uses a litany of different weapons in Ukraine. This would help out a lot. It's so funny because I've talked about like the validity of sending Iron Dome defense systems to Ukraine for a very long time. No matter how hard the NATO Andes freak out about it, about how like I'm actually pushing Z. I've been saying this from the jump, that it is ridiculous not to allow Ukraine to have an Iron Dome. I think it is perfectly valid for Ukraine to have Iron Dome, anti-artillery, anti-missile systems. When you say it, I keep thinking you're being sarcastic. No, I'm not sarcastic when I say give Palestine an Iron Dome as well. Now, this would not have been the winner. Like, this would not have like changed the battle dramatically, but it certainly would have allowed more less civilian casualties. That's my point. Anyway, here.
Sources say President Biden has urged Netanyahu to slow things down and think carefully about the risk of escalation. Biden's call for restraint drawing some criticism on both sides of the aisle.
If Joe Biden, as some press reports have it, is urging the Israelis not to retaliate at all.
Yeah, this guy is a freakazoid, dude. Look, my man is just out of control. He's just like, yep, that's right. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. It's time to glass Tehran. They have been sitting there unglassed for far too long. John Bolton is a war criminal and a genocidal pervert. Why the is he talking about this issue? Like, it just doesn't make sense, bro. You are literally a psycho.
Iran's government this weekend sent a message to the White House suggesting they were finished after their attack late Saturday, saying they consider this matter closed. The Biden administration is making the case that this was a success for Israel, suggesting retaliation may not be necessary.
It's also just a way to flex, like to be like, a lot of the messaging I've seen, including from Philip DeFranco, surprisingly, well, I guess unsurprisingly, it was like Iran did like this laughably silly thing. They got owned. And to the people who are saying like Iran got owned super hard, dude, by having all their missiles be intercepted, like I guess the question I have is like, why do you think they telegraphed that they were going to strike Israeli military targets in like relatively remote locations? And also, like, do you think they're really stupid and that's the reason why they did that? Or do you think that they're like relatively rational actors, whether you agree with them or not? And I certainly don't agree with the domestic policies in Iran either, by the way, that it is understandable that they were going to retaliate and wanted to do it in the most limited fashion possible to basically maintain their position in the region as a regional actor that wanted to retaliate for having its sovereignty be violated. You know, for people who are saying though, like, yeah, Iran is about to around and find out, or rather like that, yeah, Iran got owned here. Good. Fine. Yeah, Iran got owned. Israel does not need to retaliate now. So that's great. That's my take. That take of Iran getting owned is so America-coded too. Our defense systems are the best type vibes, but it is true. Our defense systems are the best. That part is definitely true. It is a marvel. I am not like a war pervert by any means, but it is kind of a marvel to watch, like, you know, the most expensive fireworks show of all time when you have like genuine drones and ballistic missiles and cruise missiles getting taken out in the middle of the night sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. I genuinely think that defensive capabilities such as that, it just sucks because it's still defending an apartheid regime, but defensive capabilities such as that are technological marvels and objectively good in general. That is a real defensive weapon. Overall, though, when you look at it, when you isolate it from like what it's defending and think about like the tech capabilities, it is not, I mean, it is awe-inspiring to a certain degree. Iran says it gave warning before attacking Israel. U.S. says that is not true. Wait, what? They did. Through Turkish, Jordanian, and Iraqi officials said on Sunday that Iran gave wide notice days before his drone and missiles attack on Israel. But U.S. officials said Tehran did not warn Washington that it was aiming to cause significant damage. Yeah, this is just posturing. This is just PR posturing. If they told Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq, do you think that that conversation is a one-sided conversation? Yeah. They told Turkey and they were like, Binky promise. Bro, Binky promise, bro. Do not tell this to America, okay? Allah, wallah, say wallahi. Say wallahi, bro. We are not telling America. NATO, you are a NATO country with American military bases. Say wallahi, bro. Do not tell America. Is that what was going on? So why did America use Turkey as an envoy? Why did America use Turkey as a mediator if they're so one-sided on this effort? That's Arab, not Persian. Come on. I was trying to do my Persian. This is horrible. We don't say wallahi. Okay, my bad. Here, okay. Though a young girl was critically injured and there were widespread concerns for further escalation. Iranian Foreign Ministry HasanAbi Abdullahian said on Sunday that Iran gave neighboring countries and Israel's ally, the United States, 72 hours notice. Turkey's foreign ministry said it had spoken to both Washington and Tehran before the attack, adding that it had conveyed messages as an intermediary to be sure the reactions were proportionate. Iran said the reaction would be a response to Israel's attack on its embassy in Damascus and that it would not go beyond this. We were aware of the possibilities. Developments were not a surprise, said a Turkish diplomatic source. One senior official of U.S. President Joe Biden's administration denied Amir Abdullahian's statement, saying Washington did not have contact with Iran through Swiss intermediaries, but did not get a notice 72 hours. Or they did have a contact through Swiss intermediaries, but did not get a 72-hour notice. That is absolutely not true, the official said. They did not give a notification, nor did they give any sense of these will be the targets, so evacuate them. Tehran sent the United States a message only after the strikes began, and the intent was to be highly destructive, said the official, adding that Iran's claim of a widespread warning may be an attempt to compensate for the lack of any major damage from the attack. We received a message from the Iranians as this was ongoing through the Swiss. This was basically suggesting that they were finished after this, but this was still an ongoing attack. So that was their message to us, the U.S. official said. IDF chief of staff says Israel will respond to the Iranian missile attack. This is why I said it is all in the hands of Israel. Now, if Israel chooses to attack Iranian soil directly, then they will continue along with the interest of trying to expand the conflict and bring the United States into the conflict. Gallant said they have no choice but to retaliate. Like I said, if they continue on hitting proxies in Syria, hitting proxies in Iraq, military bases and things of that nature, that's one thing. If they continue taking pot shots at Lebanon, as they have, that's one thing. If they hit Iranian soil, that's an entirely different thing. Let's get back to it. So, like I said, it is entirely in the hands of Israel now. The ball's in Israel's court. And let me tell you, they're J.R. Smith style shooters out here. They don't give a about contested shots. They're opening up. So we'll see what happens. I really hope they somehow magically find restraint in an interest of self-preservation, but who knows? I think that if Israel attacks like proxy IRGC positions in Syria and Iraq, or maybe in Yemen, or maybe in Lebanon, then this stays relatively tame. If they strike Iranian soil, they are trying to open up a new front and bring America into the battlefield. America has said that they won't defend forward operations on Iranian soil, but that doesn't mean that they won't defend Israel unconditionally when Iran does retaliate. Israel vows to retaliate against Iran for missile attacks.
We must make it clear that the safety of the civilians is the most important thing. I know that the implications over the work, economy, children, home, etc., are very significant, and therefore we let down limitations as soon as we can. Yesterday, in light of the defense situation, we could only do it very close to midnight, only very near midnight. If we could have done it earlier, we would have done so.
I think Benjamin Netanyahu not striking back against Iran instantly and waiting for America, a phone conversation with Joe Biden, also once again reaffirms my position from the jump that yes, contrary to what liberals posture online, Joseph Robinette Biden could have done infinitely more to restrain Israel from the jump. This is why anyone and everyone that acted as though America is small bean in this small bean Israel ethnic cleansing campaign had nothing to do with it and could not stop Israel from doing ethnic cleansing was wrong. Completely wrong. When America says jump, Israel says how high, because without American weapons, without America constantly rearming Israel's defenses, Israel would not be able to defend itself. Israel would also not be able to do offensive campaigns without being able to defend themselves. Israel would not be able to attack an Iranian embassy in Damascus without knowing full well that America will defend it unconditionally if Iran retaliates. Of course, when Iran retaliates, America is going to defend Israel.